Meanwhile, the Pro-Chancellor of the University of Lagos, WALE BABALAKIN, has resigned following an alleged disagreement with the federal government on the visitation panel sent to the university. He said there are too many vested interests not approaching the issues objectively. The former Pro-Chancellor said it has come to a stage he must stand by his principles since the federal government believed the actions he took may not be right. He noted that the visitation panel was raised to exonerate the Vice-Chancellor and implicate the Pro-Chancellor. Dr. Babalakin said although he appeared in protest before the panel, he made it clear that the panel could not determine the issues before it. He has been the chairman of the negotiating team since January 6, 2017.
Now, this resignation by the university's Pro-Chancellor is the latest in a 1 month of event, which began with the removal of the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikpe, by the Governing Council headed by the now resigned Pro-Chancellor, WALE BABALAKIN. This next report by Sharon Ijason chronicles the intrigue, drama and uncertainty that took over one of Nigeria's prime universities for 1 month.
Hours after the visitation panel submitted its report to the federal government, the suspended Pro-Chancellor of the University of Lagos, Unilag, announced his resignation. To close observers, reports of a strained relationship between the Vice-Chancellor and Pro-Chancellor of the University of Lagos were not far-fetched, but the public could have noticed when the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikpe, announced the date for the 51st convocation ceremony, which the Pro-Chancellor cancelled. Registrar of the University, Oladejo Aziz, announced the sack of Professor Ogundikpe and the appointment of Professor Theophilus Shoyombo as acting Vice-Chancellor for the institution on the 13th of August, 2020. But within hours of the announcement of his removal, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Ogundikpe, expressed dissatisfaction and termed his removal illegal. With that, tension began to grow. The Senate of the University of Lagos passed a vote of confidence on the embattled Vice-Chancellor and also passed a vote of no confidence on the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council, WALE BABALAKIN, for failing to follow due process in the purported removal of the Vice-Chancellor.
That an institution governed by a Pro-Chancellor, that's a lawyer, that should pride itself in the rule of law, and we have kangaroo, and for that matter, an alumnus of a faculty of law, the primus inter pares, the flagship of the university, to perpetrate this travesty of justice. It's very sad.
A peaceful walk was held to receive Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikpe by the university upon his arrival on campus a day after his sack. Chairman of the Unilag chapter of ASU insists that the act establishing the institution states that a joint committee of the council and the Senate must be constituted to investigate any allegations against the Vice-Chancellor and then make recommendations for the person to be given fair hearing before an investigative panel. On Friday, the 14th of August, while both staff and watchers waited for clarification from the Governing Council, the Pro-Chancellor WALE BABALAKIN restated the council's allegations of gross misconduct and misappropriation of funds against the embattled Vice-Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikpe. He further claimed that he had the backing of the federal government.
The only comment I heard from the Ministry of Education is that whoever has the right to hire has the right to fire, but they should follow due process.
Professor Folashade Ogunshola was appointed acting Vice-Chancellor shortly after the visitation panel intervention. Though the panel has submitted its report, the university community is expecting the release of the white paper from the presidency. Sharon Ijason, TVC News.